Tonight on Newswire L.A., we take our first look at the race for Sheriff of Los Angeles County. All of this and more coming up right after the credits. Hi, and welcome to Newswire L.A. I'm your host, Chin Thomasangsi. Today, we are proud to kick off our coverage of the 2014 election season, and we're kicking it off with a look at the County of Los Angeles race for sheriff. Joining me today is one of those candidates. His name, Lou Vince. All of this and more coming up shortly. Los Angeles County has a population of 9,818,605 people. This makes it the most populous county in the United States. The County of Los Angeles alone has a population that's larger than 42 of the 50 states in the Union. The county can say it is home to over a quarter of California's total population and is the most ethnically diverse in the country. At 4,083 square miles, it's larger than the states of Rhode Island and Delaware combined. Forgotten is the fact that Los Angeles County's territory also includes two offshore islands, San Clemente and Santa Catalina. The county is home to 88 incorporated cities and many more unincorporated areas. The key theme about anything LA County is its sheer size. Providing law enforcement for the largest county in the nation is the largest sheriff's department in the nation, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. The department is the fourth largest policing agency in the U.S. behind the New York Police Department, the Chicago Police Department, and the Los Angeles Police Department. The Sheriff's Department provides law enforcement services for 42 out of the 88 cities in the county along with the unincorporated areas. In addition, the Sheriff oversees most local parks, marinas, and government buildings and courthouses. The last year and a half to 2 years have not been kind to the Sheriff's Department. Scandal after scandal has been brought to light either by the media or inside whistleblowers. As a result, incumbent Sheriff Leroy Baca retired at the end of January 2014. This left the field open for a bunch of new faces to take charge and rebuild. So far, 8 candidates have emerged and thrown their hats into the field. Tonight on Newswire L.A., we're going to hear from one of those candidates, Lou Vince. All of the candidates, with the exception of Lou and Long Beach Chief Jim McDonnell, are members of the Sheriff's Department. The fact that Lou is an outsider throws an interesting dynamic into the race. So, without further delay, join me and Lou Vince for our in-depth interview coming to you from Studio City. The race for sheriff. It's starting to heat up with the primary coming up in June. Let's start from the top. Tell us a little bit about who Lou Vince the man is.
Well, I'm a native Californian. I was born in the San Francisco area. When I was young, my parents relocated to Connecticut, where I grew up and graduated from high school. During my service in the Marine Corps, I found myself stationed back in California, and that's when I decided to stay and build my life here. I lead by example. I believe that education is important and a must for law enforcement. I earned my bachelor's degree in law enforcement and justice administration, and then my master's degree in criminology, law, and society from UC Irvine. And on a personal level, my wife and I, Stacy, we have 4 children. two of which we adopted through the LA County Department of Children and Family Services, because we know that children need strong guidance and support to be successful. We have 4 children total, as I said, ages 4, 5, 7, and 9. The 3 oldest are boys and the youngest is a girl. And I know that Los Angeles County, specifically the LA County Sheriff's Department, needs a stronger focus on the welfare of all of our children. And really, that's the only way we're going to be able to reduce crime in the long run.
One of the things I read in your bio, and this is actually, it may be kind of a personal question to me because I feel like you and I connect on that level. When you came through elementary and high school, you went to all Catholic schools.
Yes.
I did the same. And it brings up a question that I usually hear one of my other reporters ask her political subjects, but I'm going to throw it at you. You've been in law enforcement for many years, and you've made many decisions and many choices, etc., etc. How much has your faith figured into the decisions you make? What percentage of that is part of you deciding to make something happen?
Well, that's a good question, and I think really it boils down to the difference between right and wrong. And through that, growing up in Catholic school and in the Catholic Church, it's really about right and wrong. It's about doing the right thing even when nobody's watching, because God is watching, essentially. And that's what I would communicate, and what I do communicate to people that work for me, and I want to communicate to the people of the Sheriff's Department, is that you have to do the right thing. We don't learn the right thing in the academy, okay, or the wrong thing. We learn that in kindergarten. We learn that from our parents. We learn that as young children. The challenge is to have the courage to do the right thing when nobody is watching, and to treat everybody how you'd want to be treated.
It's been a very interesting year for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, and you and I were talking off camera that usually these races are not very well watched because most of the time you do have the incumbent running. In this case, you don't have it. Now you have a wide open field of members of the Sheriff's Department and people like yourself who are with other agencies coming into the race. Talk to me a little bit about what it's like coming from the outside and going for an office such as this one.
Thank you, Chin. First thing I'd like to tell you, and maybe tell your viewers, is that there's been more popes elected in the last 80 years than there's been sheriffs of Los Angeles County. Typically, as you said, the incumbent is the person that's considered the shoo-in, and nobody really pays attention to this race. This is the first time since 1932 that the voters of Los Angeles County are really going to have a choice in who their sheriff is. And that's important because the sheriff deals with, countywide law enforcement, the jails, the courts, and it's important for voters to pay attention. Now, as you said, I'm an outsider. I've not been tainted, if you will, by the past administration and scandals at the Sheriff's Department. I'm a middle manager with the City of Los Angeles Police Department. The Sheriff's Department, I do have some experience in. I was a reserve deputy for 4 years where I earned $1 a year. That $4 gave me a unique insight into the operations of the Sheriff's Department. And just as a little background, the Sheriff's Department here in LA County is the largest Sheriff's Department in the United States. And we've got to do a few things because they face some enormous problems. We've got to implement effective solutions to make sure that everyone feels safe in their homes and communities. That's typical crime fighting things like computer statistics or predictive policing. We've got to do something, as you mentioned, I think you mentioned the jail scandal, about the overburdened and all too often too violent jail system that we have in LA County. And finally, the thing I hear most about on the campaign trail is that we've got to do something to reform the Sheriff's Department and bring that organization into the 21st century.
And as a member of the Los Angeles Police Department, first of all, how long have you been with the LAPD? And talk about some of the things you have done over the course of your career. I was reading in your bio that you've come up from patrol officer all the way up through the ranks. Give us a little bit of a glimpse of that.
Well, Chin, I have to be careful here, and I have to give you a disclaimer. I am a member of the Los Angeles Police Department and have been for nearly 20 years. However, I'm speaking to you today as a candidate for Los Angeles County Sheriff, a private citizen, if you will. Now that that's out of the way, I've held a wide variety of assignments and ranks at the LAPD. I've been a field training officer, a detective, a sergeant, a senior detective supervisor. I provided oversight to many complex operations. I was heavily involved in the opening of the Mission Division and Topanga Station here in the San Fernando Valley. I've held a wide variety of assignments, including narcotics, gangs, and internal affairs. And really, I've done everything that I can do with the LAPD, and I'm looking forward to bringing that leadership experience to the Sheriff's Department.
Now, a lot of the people you're running against, including your competition who is coming from the city of Long Beach, they have chief status. They have that status. I'm going to assume you don't hold that status right now with the other agency. But with that being said, why would anybody be inclined to vote for you above, let's say, your competition in Long Beach, or even the other members of the sheriff's department who do have command status?
Well, let me put it like this. We've had the past, and what we talk about a lot in law enforcement is time on the job. All of a sudden, because you have, say, 30 years or 33 years of doing the same thing over and over again, that makes you somehow more qualified. I firmly don't believe that, okay? It's about what you do with your time and how you handle yourself and how you show your leadership skills. Those other people, they've had long and storied careers, but that's the past, okay? Especially the ones from the sheriff's department. I'm the future. I'm someone with fresh ideas. I've got the inside knowledge and the outside perspective, plus I've got the skill set to do this job.
All right. Since we've talked about that, let's talk about the reforms and your plans. Let's do a hypothetical. Okay. Let's say we do pin that star to your chest. Talk to us about the things you're going to do walking in to the East L.A. headquarters. Where are you going to start?
Well, number one, and the all-encompassing, overarching goal that I will have is to restore the trust of the community in the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. The LA County Sheriff's Department cannot do their job without the trust of the community. And the first thing I want to do is set the expectations that I won't tolerate any secretive or deceptive behavior, all that stuff that you read about. I mean, it's above the fold at LA Times almost daily. And I want to get the story out about the 99% of the deputies who are essentially heroes that are out there doing the good work every day. And I want the deputies to feel good about that and get their story told so that everybody can see how hard of a job this is. And I want the community to understand that I won't tolerate these past transgressions that have been occurring. So that's the number one goal.
A lot of people are going to watch this and say, well, yeah, but everybody else says that. What are some concrete bullet points that you're going to implement once you walk in there?
Number one, I don't know if your audience is familiar with this, but when you come out of the academy as a young deputy, oftentimes 21, 22 years old with a high school diploma, you're put directly into the jails. Okay? That's where you learn, or you're indoctrinated into a subculture, if you will, of violence, of people that haven't made the best choices in life. And you interact with those people, and that's the skewed view you get of the community. Really, what I want to see is young deputies come out of the academy, go out in the field or go out and patrol, learn that the people they're interacting with are their mother, their cousin, their sister, and to treat them with respect. And if they make it in the field, yeah, they're going to have to do a tour in the jails eventually, but they're going to be more mature, they're going to be more tenured, and they're going to have a better idea of how to treat people.
And what are you going to do about, let's say you have deputies who are already in the system and all over the system, whether it be the courts or whatever, and we know of the behavior that has been documented in the news. How are you going to work to either stamp that out or slowly attrition it out of the system? How are you going to get that so you can get a new, fresh blood going in there?
Well, one of the things I plan on doing is holding seminars, essentially trainings, where I communicate my expectations. It's simple. You treat people how they deserve to be treated, respect for people. And then once those expectations are there, I'm going to hold my command staff and the managers and really the frontline supervisors who supervise these deputies on the streets every day accountable for that. And that's how that's going to happen. A little piggyback on that is I've been through this with a large municipal police department in the Los Angeles area, okay, where a federal monitor came in and, we got a consent decree and we had to go through transition, where sure, the line personnel grumbled a little bit, but eventually, as those expectations were maintained by the chief at the time, everybody fell in line and we've come out really on the good side of things. And that the sheriff's department is in a similar predicament, and I'm one of the few people that has actually been through that and can help lead the sheriff's department through that.
All right, and I got my question back. The current sheriff, or actually the sheriff who just retired from LA County, if I remember correctly, had 16 years on the job, or coming into 16 years, which would be roughly 4 terms. One of the things that came through in looking at what has happened over the last few years is that the sheriff was disconnected from what was going on day to day, whether it had been patrol, definitely the jails, and probably some other areas. You are sitting on top of the largest sheriff's department in the nation. How are you going to work to never get into that situation where you are disconnected and things are blindsiding you?
Well, simply that's about being involved. I call it management by walking around. Obviously, I'm not going to be walking around the county, but I'm going to be plugged in to all those different stations, all those different entities, and be there. I'm going to have my office, in the jails or nearby. That's an important part that has been forgotten, essentially, and unfortunately, it took a lot of this bad light being shined on it to be brought to the forefront. The sheriff's department has gotten quite a bit, I say, diversified or spread kind of thin. With the MTA contract, community college contracts, unincorporated areas, contract cities. I want to try to bring some of that back down and get back to the basics of providing law enforcement, taking care of the jails, and providing security to the courts. And then we can work on other things like community college and the MTA and so forth.
You just said something very interesting to me that kind of made my ears perk up. The sheriff's department, well, let me rephrase, the MTA, the community colleges, those are sources of revenue for the county of Los Angeles. Are you telling me that you are not afraid to take a look at the department and, let's say, remove certain areas that you feel are not necessary to the operations of the department? How will you? Let's do a hypothetical. How would you deal with county government when they look at you and say, "Well, hey, that's a revenue stream for the county of Los Angeles"?
Well, number one, and to answer your question, yes, I'm not afraid to do that. To answer your question, one of the first things I want to do, and there's a lot of first things, there's no doubt about it, this is such a huge undertaking, is get a forensic accounting audit of the entire sheriff's department budget. It's approximately $2.4 billion with a B, okay? I'm not going to sit there and count all the zeros myself, but I can bring in a firm that does that professionally, like Deloitte and Touche or any CPA accounting firm, and find out where this money is going. Okay, because for far too long, like I said in the beginning of this interview, there's only been 4 sheriffs since 1932. And the sheriff's department suffers from a case of that's the way we've always done it syndrome. And someone needs to come in and say, okay, maybe we don't need 34 boats in the sheriff's department. Okay, maybe we could put that money somewhere else. Maybe we don't need this or maybe we don't need that. But I don't know until I do that. But yes, absolutely. And sometimes, to finish this up, sometimes it's not about the money. Like I said before, it's about doing what's right so the people that are deserving of the service can get the service.
This was an interesting question and a very basic question to you, Lou. We live in the city of Los Angeles, basically.
Right.
The LAPD serves us. Why should we really even bother with worrying about who's going to be the sheriff of Los Angeles County?
Well, there's an old saying that people in the sheriff's departments use, and because there's a bear on the badge, and they say the bear goes everywhere. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department has jurisdiction countywide, and you may not find yourself in the jail, but should you have the misfortune to find that happen, you want to make sure that you're treated with respect, or if it's one of your family members or your friends, you want to make sure that they're treated properly. Secondly, the court system. We're all touched by the court system one way or another, whether it's civil court, criminal court. One day you're going to find yourself having to deal with court, especially landlord-tenant disputes. And that's something the sheriff's department is involved in. And you want to make sure that you're getting the best professional policing from that entity that you can. The third thing is that the sheriff has a responsibility for homeland security and countywide coordination of emergency services. So when something goes sideways, you want to make sure that your sheriff isn't, on vacation in Saudi Arabia or something like that. So you want someone that's engaged